Hey friends, welcome to the Strategic Outsider. Today I want to talk to you about something that sounds like a dessert, but it's actually a leadership diagnosis. This episode is called the Kingdom Creamery. The question underneath it is simple. Why do pastors disengage from associations? And what are some of the simple practical moves that make associations valuable? Let me start with a scene that you've probably lived. Nobody gets excited about a lukewarm tub of vanilla-ish ice cream. Now, it's technically ice cream, but it's the kind that you eat while standing in the kitchen at 10:47 p.m. with the freezer door open, questioning your life choices. Now, I'm not proud of that, but having served on staff in both small and mega-sized churches, I'm experienced. And honestly, that's how a lot of churches feel about associations right now. Technically there, technically functioning, but not exactly energizing. Not exactly something that you're thrilled to support, to attend, or to build around. Because what people actually want is small batch, high impact, locally sourced, spirit filled goodness. Something made with the best ingredients, thoughtfully combined, and served in a way that makes you say, "Oh, that's different," in a good way. That's a picture of what a healthy, vital, and vibrant association can be. But it's also, if we're honest, a picture of what too many associations are not. And that gap is one of my growing frustrations. Here's the pain point that we've got to name. In our world, you'll hear the role called a dozen different things. Associational mission strategist, director of missions, associational missionary, all different names, similar lane. My frustration is that I've seen too many people treat the role like a landing strip for retirement. And I've talked to far too many pastors who have told me plainly why they disconnected from their local association. They watched a leader collect a hefty compensation package while producing very little value. Their conclusion wasn't complicated. We're not funding somebody else's laziness. That admission should sober every single one of us. Not because churches are being unkind, but because trust is oxygen in voluntary cooperation. When trust is depleted, the whole body starts gasping. And here's what makes it worse. When churches disconnect from the local association, they often begin disconnecting from the broader state and national convention. Because as local collaboration goes, so goes national cooperation. If the regional expression of cooperative mission feels hollow or self-serving, churches start thinking, if our local situation is basically an island on the sea of isolation, then why be a part of the larger connection? Then what happens? Well, churches drift into survival mode, compartmentalization, less outward thinking, less shared mission, less imagination. Less, what could we do together in our region for the sake of the gospel, and more breaking off to partner with less contextual churches based on region, and further segmentation into theological groups, creating additional divides. Not because they don't love the kingdom, but because the associational leader who was entrusted to cultivate kingdom-minded partnership phoned it in and misused that trust. So yes, we need better models. But we also need better posture and better fruit. This whole illustration clicked for me while listening to an interview with Jenny Britton, the founder of Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. She talked about how her greatest growth happened when she realized that she didn't have to be the best producer of the best ingredients. She simply had to find the people who had already perfected their craft. The ones making the best chocolate, the best vanilla, the best fruit purees. Then she could build something remarkable by curating the best of what they already did. And yes, I tried a pint of her Boston cream pie, and it was terrific. That was the associational aha. Not I must personally become the expert in everything, but I must become the kind of leader who knows the region, recognizes excellence, earns trust, and connects churches to what they actually need based on where God is pulling them into the future. Associations rarely choose to become bland. It happens honestly and frustratingly. A church needs help or an opportunity, so we build a program. Another church needs help or resources, so we build another program. Eventually, those programs do not yield traction proportional to the effort put into them, not because the associational leader didn't try, but because often the congregation going through the program is not ready for it. They're looking for a silver bullet, and the associational leader is trying to present it. And eventually, everybody's exhausted. Let's just say the quiet part out loud. Strong and soaring churches are usually not the primary audience for these programs because they already have momentum. They already have systems and leadership. They have their own thing going, and it's going well. Therefore, everyone then gives out. And here's the twist. The exhaustion isn't because associations are doing nothing. It's because associations are trying to do too much of the wrong thing without readiness and urgency from those that are participating. They're creating ministries that the churches themselves could do better and more contextually while missing the unique superpower that only an association can pull off. Curating connections that individual churches can't easily see from their own vantage point. See, a great ice cream maker doesn't insist on owning everything. They don't have to raise the cows, grow the vanilla, harvest the fruit, and build the freezer. What makes the final product remarkable is this. They know what best tastes like. They know where to get it. They combine it with care. They serve it consistently. That's the associational shift that has to happen. From doing ministry for churches to strengthening ministry through churches. Your role becomes less program producer and more connector, coach, curator, and catalyst, helping pastors and churches access the best resources already in the region and beyond. Then aligning those resources with real needs at the right time. And yes, you will still host an event sometimes, but the event is no longer the point. The event becomes a tasting table where relationships are built and connections are made. So what's the playbook look like? Simple, repeatable, and relational. Number one, the connection pipeline. This is where you listen, map, match, and multiply. If you only remember one framework, remember that. Listen because you can't connect needs that you don't understand. Regular pastoral touch points, calls, coffees, visits. When you connect, ask better questions than, y'all good? Try, what's heavy right? What would be a win in the next 90 days? Second thing, map. Turn what you're hearing into a living picture of your region. Structure it. Needs, strengths, gaps, opportunities. Third thing, match. Pair the right ingredient with the right need. A church with a thriving men's discipleship culture connects with a church trying to build one. A gifted communicator becomes a coach that helps a younger pastor. A sharp administration leader walks a church through policies or onboarding or workflow. Fourth, multiply. Once a match works, don't keep it private. Capture the learning, repeat the model, normalize collaboration so that it becomes part of the culture, not a special occasion. The second thing, build a supplier list. This is your regional ingredient directory. Most churches don't have time to hunt for the best. They just need help that's trustworthy and contextual. Your supplier list can include things like pastors and preachers for a pulpit supply bench, small group leaders and disciple makers, worship leaders and tech help, leadership development coaches, finance and administration systems people, church law and HR contacts, comms and website builders, counselors and crisis care resources. Curate that list. Then keep it simple. A spreadsheet is absolutely fine. What matters is trust and clarity, not polish. Add 2 notes beside each ingredient to assess the best fit situations, meaning some churches would do well receiving help from a larger size culture church and the individuals that come from that church. However, sometimes there are some individuals that exist in that environment that aren't able to articulate views and vantage point from the small church mindset and what it is that they're facing. So it's important to understand that nuance. Good curation protects both the churches and the volunteers. Number 3, Create a flavor board. A flavor board is a group of trusted pastors and leaders sized accordingly that helps you keep a pulse of what's taking place. You're asking questions like, what are churches facing right now? What needs are emerging? Who has strengths that could serve others in our context? What resources are working here, not just in theory, but in practice? It's really a tasting panel, a trend radar. Meet quarterly for 90 minutes over lunch. Start with wins, surface pain points, look for opportunities, identify 2 or 3 connections, and then experiment for the next quarter. Number 4, launch a sample spoon system. Before you build anything big, offer samples. When association shifts from program factory to connector hub, the goal isn't more programs, it's more traction. Samples reduce the risk and increase trust, like one-night workshop or a 3-week micro cohort with 3 churches and 1 topic and 1 outcome, pulpit supply bench, admin coaching office hours, disciple making recipe swap. The question isn't how do we launch a new initiative, it's what's the smallest next step that helps a pastor or a church this next month or this next quarter. What about intake? You need to create a 90-second intake form. If you want pastors to tell you what they need, don't hand them a form that feels like a mortgage application. A simple intake form can be 5 prompts. Use JotForm or simply put it on a piece of paper and have them fill it out at a lunch. What's your top challenge right now? If that's improved in 90 days, what would change? What kind of help would be most useful for you or for your church? What have you already tried? Best way and best time to follow up. That's it. That's the form. It isn't about data for the report. It's about a front door for connection. You want to have a trust-first approach. If you try to convince everyone at once that the association is changing, you're going to spend your life writing vision statements and hosting meetings where people nod politely and change nothing. Instead, pick one pastor or one context and help solve one real issue. Make one thoughtful connection, follow up, and then let the story spread naturally. In kingdom work, traction beats promotion almost every time. What does this produce? When associations operate like a kingdom creamery, curating ingredients and strengthening ministry through connections, here's what begins to happen. Churches are strengthened with contextual help. Ministries are revitalized through shared wisdom. Pastors are encouraged because they're not carrying everything alone. Resources are met with less scrambling and more clarity. Leaders are developed and deployed more intentionally. And churches are planted and renewed with a deeper bench of support. And the association becomes what it was always meant to be, a relational network that helps churches do more in partnership than they could ever do apart. If your association has been trying to be the dairy farm, the sugar mill, the scoop shop, take a breath. You don't have to make all of the ice cream. But here's the other side. If the role has become a place to coast, to collect, to phone it in, then we should not be surprised when churches disengaged. Voluntary cooperation runs on trust, and trust must be earned with visible, humble, and consistent service. We don't need associational celebrities. We don't need associational retirees. We need associational servants, leaders who know the region, love the pastors, build credibility through real work, and curate the best ingredients God has already placed among his people. Because nobody's excited about vanilla-ish ice cream. But every church leader can recognize and rejoice in something thoughtfully made, faithfully served, and unmistakably alive. If this resonated, I want you to go and read the full article on Substack titled The Kingdom Creamery. Read it, share it with a regional leader who needs the shift, and if you want these posts delivered straight to you, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. All right, see you in the next one.